Alright, welcome back to the SeriouslyGhetto workshop. I've got a few new parts in today, and before we get to those, I kind of wanted to just get up to speed on where I am on this build and show you a couple of things that I have left to do and that I have in mind. First, I wanted to talk about the frame a little bit. This is DALRC, which I think is the same company that makes the props, and I like this frame. It's bigger than the RG210. This is a 265, and mostly I chose this because it's having a little more size. I'm kind of clumsy and not nearly as skilled as somebody like Richard, so I need a little more room to work with. I really love my RG210, but I just don't have the kind of skill that Richard does, and things get crowded in there, and so the size was purely to accommodate my lack of skill. Now, we'll start with this bottom plate here. On this, I kind of like this bottom plate. It protects the PDB that's under it and where the ESCs are going to be on the center plate. There's also little upright plates front and back you can't see just yet, but those are just about perfect for my LEDs. So and now these got to be rewired and all that, but they can be configured in clean flight. They can show me when I'm armed and disarmed. They can do low battery, be different colors, things like that, various uses, and I'll be working on that after I get them hooked up, but that's pretty cool to have a good place to put them front and back. And like I said, right now we're looking at the bottom. Now, one thing I also like about the PDB that I chose over the first one is, I don't know if you can see it under there, the filter is right there. This one's flat, whereas that first one that I burned up had a can style filter, and it kind of didn't fit real well right there. I was having to jump through some hoops to try to figure out how to mount the PDB and still have room for this plate. This PDB takes care of that, so that's not a problem anymore. Let me lift this off here, and now you can see these two little plates front and back. I'll take them out of the way too so we can look at a few other things. The landing gear is on this little motor pod protector. That'll work pretty good. If it turns out I don't like that, or if the screws don't fit with these LumierGear motors or something, I don't know, because I've looked and they're kind of short. I haven't opened it up yet, but the screws look pretty short. If they don't fit, I can still get either the Delrin style that Richard's using now, and there are a couple places I can screw them in on here and have them on the bottom plate, or I can just get those neoprene pads. I forget who makes them now. I think I got them from Flight Club. I can't remember, but they're just little neoprene pads, and they stick on here, and that'll work too. So landing gear's not going to be a problem. Now this PDB, I bought a multimeter to try to keep myself from burning up my components, so I check voltage and stuff like that, and I actually caused my own last damage with the multimeter. And you can see, I'll show you the probes here. They're pretty small. You guys know how to do this. This will be very familiar. I'm not electrically inclined at all. On whoops, dropped that. On the back of the PDB is a set of pins for some of the OSD stuff. And what I did in checking voltage, and I was pretty proud of myself, I got it right. I went back to check it again, and I had it on those little pins, and these two probe tips got together. Now, I know you really probably can't see it. This camera's not that good, but there's one of the OSD circuits actually right in there, smoked up. No, where is that? Right here on this side. It just burnt one circuit. The rest of the board works. I could probably go ahead and wire it in, and it'd still be okay, but that's not the way I wanted to do it. I chose this PDB because it has the circuitry for the OSD on it that just simplifies wiring. And I've got OSD I wanted on here. That's now my solution to that next time when I check it. I have a whole bag of these little single servo leads. I'll plug one end into the PDB, and I'll check voltage from the other end so that there won't be any danger getting those tips together again. Duh, I don't know why I didn't think of that before. I really should have. Now you can kind of see I've wired in. I'm gonna take this off here, pick this up because I'll probably want to show that to you later on maybe. Well, I'll go ahead and show it to you now. This is the Micro Minim OSD unit. It's very small. You can see it's about the size of my thumbnail. It didn't cost much at all. It's got some pins and pads. This will have to be dewired because things aren't going to hook up the way they did the first time I hooked it up. So, and that will fit. I'll show you where that's going to fit later on. Now the PDB, you can see here, I'll turn this up right, it's on the bottom, the flight control board is on the top. With that other can, I couldn't put these standoffs in here. I was just having to put the nuts on and then try to put this over the nubs that was left over, and I don't know, I was going to glue it or do something, but this PDB is better, so I can just do it as is. You can see I don't have it screwed in. It's nice on the bottom, flat. I like these pads. This OSD circuitry just makes everything a lot easier. Now I've got the wires laid out here so far. I've wired in the XT60 connector for the battery power, which you can see there. That's how that's going to be. This is upright, of course. I put a little bit of heat shrink tube on it where it goes through the center plate so that I won't have to worry about vibration causing a nick in the wire or something. And I've left them quite a bit longer this time because I don't know if I'm going to go to the inside or the outside yet. I haven't made up my mind. I'm going to find out what works best. One of the driving factors right now for me in this, besides that I want to get it done and I really do want it to fly well, is I want it to be clean and neat. I want it to look good. That's just it's just the way it is. If I want to do a good job. Now the two smaller wires here are also going to be directly soldered to the PDB. The Seriously Pro Racing F3 Mini is powered off of full battery power right here, and it steps it all down to whatever it needs to be on here. That's a different story. I think I covered that in another video. But so I've got that laid in there. I've got heat shrink on that also, and those wires again I've left long enough. And when I do finally get around to soldering, when I get my new board in, the plan is to get the bigger wires here, the battery wires, to the right length, and then strip these off a little bit longer, wrap them around a time or two, and tin them together, and then do the whole thing to the pad on the PDB at the same time. So that'll all be soldered in at once. I think that'll simplify, and then that'll still leave two spots for ESCs on the front and the whole back open. You got 5 and 12 volt pads up here, and it's a pretty good board for $9. Pretty good board. Now I'm going to turn it over and take a look at the top side. You can see how the flight controller lays here. The receiver, I want to keep as much as I can on this center plate for simplification. But I think this receiver might be the exception because I may have to put it on the top plate because I kind of need somewhere for the antennas to go out. I know there are other ways to route them, but I like the way Richard does it, where they come up, use a zip tie and maybe a straw or something like that to keep them up where they're out there and get good reception. That's one thing. Now you can also see, and thank you again, Richard, for this jumper that you made me. That's again working out really well. When I set this on here where it's going to be, you can see that fits just about perfect right there. Those wires might be a little bit in the way, but again, I've got enough here. I can spread those out, do something with it. But that's where I'm thinking that's going to go. I could turn it around and mount it underneath on top. I've considered that too. In fact, I might because I'm also looking at a different video transmitter. This is an LT200. It came as part of a package of pretty cheap, a little 600 TVL camera, and this transmitter that I got for 26 bucks from Hobby King. And it works, but it may not be all that when you get right down to it. I haven't had a chance to do FPV all that much, but the last time I tried it just wasn't as great as I thought it was the first time. So considering a couple of cameras and transmitters. One of the ones I'm looking at now is a LumierGear set. Since I started LumierGear, I may just finish this one out, but again, it's really not my money, so but it's a 600 microwatt transmitter. It's a little bit bigger than this. It may need to go up here into this top plate, and the camera is a lot like the Foxeer HS 1177, I think is the model. You can see this. I got this little Aomway camera here mounted in, and that was one of the things I wasn't too wild about on this. It took me a while to figure out exactly how I was supposed to mount this in here. It came with this mount, but once you get it in there, the camera really doesn't fit in the ring. You have to use a screw, and I didn't like that. Both the Foxeer and LumierGear have a much better bracket system and controlling the angle of the camera, so I think that's something I'm probably going to go with. And then really the only thing left after that is I've got this this buzzer, which is pretty big, but there's a lot of room in here, and it's loud, so my ears don't work that great, so that'll be some help. And I'm trying to think if I have anything. No, that's pretty much it for what I have left to build. I've got to order a PDB, of course, because I burnt the other one up the other night. It's brand new too, man, and it worked. Now let's take a look at these. These are LumierGear Little Bs. They call them Opto Little BL Healy Pros. They're just like the Little B Pros. I'll open this up and see if we can get a look at them. And what I can see, they look really just like the Little B Pros. I'm sorry for the view here. I wear trifocals. I have to lift my head up to actually read some of this stuff so I can see. Now I've got a Little B Pro here, the FVT version that I got from same place Richard gets his. And from what I can see here, they are identical. The LumierGear board might be just a hair thicker, but the components are exactly identical. I can't really tell on the top here, but from what I can see, it really is, except it's got a label on it that says LumierGear, which for about $3 more a piece, I think they were. I believe Richard was right. Sometimes you're really just paying for the name. So I'm going to use them. I got them. Like I said, I didn't actually pay for these. I mean, I kind of did, but the money came from, well, that's another story. Anyhow, they're basically Little B 20 amp Pros, and I'm sure I'll be happy with them. Now let's take a look at one of these motors. These are the LumierGear, where's the RB2204-13 2500 kV Schizo Special Edition. That's what it says on the box there. I don't know if you can see that or not. I hope so. This camera's really not that good. One of these days, that's going to be what I break down and buy as a real camera. This one's kind of cheap. I've got these screws, and actually they do look kind of short. They may not work for that landing gear pad. I may have to do something different. Those little motor pods that go on there. There's the motor. Let's get this open and take a look. I want to mention too, while I'm at it, the problems I've been having here are of my own making. I don't have anywhere near the skill that Richard does, and I'm learning as I go that RG210 that I built the first time came out very well, and it was probably seemed easier than it was because Richard was basically holding my hand every step of the way. I mean, and I still made a few mistakes, but with Richard helping you, I mean, like that much, it's hard to describe the level of assistance he gave me. And that made it probably seem a lot easier than it was. And even though mine didn't come out nearly as good as his does, it performs very, very well. So this is just kind of an experiment for me. I do some of this stuff sometimes just because I want to see something different or play around with something. Okay, here's this motor. Nice looking motor. It's got kind of long wires on it. They got bullets on the end that I'll probably cut off because I'm not putting any more bullet connectors on. The only thing that I can think of that I know because I asked, one of the differences between these motors is that the wires aren't coated, but Richard's 2600 kVs aren't coated either. I asked him, so I normally wouldn't spend this kind of money. Like I said, it wasn't really my money that bought it, so that had a lot to do with me winding up with this gear. Next time, and I'm sure there will be next time, provided I ever quit burning up parts and get this done, next time is going to be those 2600s of Richard's. One thing I found out about these when I first got them, I noticed they were all the same part number. They had the same color nut on top, and came as part of a power pack, 4 ESCs and 4 motors. And I thought it might have been a mistake because, you know, usually you get 2 silver and 2 black, but these are all the same, and that wasn't a mistake. They only make one model motor like this. You take care of the direction of the motor either by wiring 2 of these wires backwards from the others or by setting it up in BL Healy Suite. And I confirmed that earlier, actually a couple of times, that I can do that at BL Healy Suite and still leave these wires laying flat, which is probably what I'm going to do. But the lock wash, the nut on top, they're all threaded the same direction, and it's a lock nut. The guy from Get Up PV told me it's not a mistake. That's the way they are. So Richard told me one of the things he didn't like about the LumierGears that he used was that they had small bearings and they made a lot of noise. He said they scream, but that's kind of why they scream. It had to do with the bearings. I remember reading something about bearings when I was looking at these, and I can't remember what it was, but maybe that was something to do with that. I don't know. We'll find out. And just so anybody will know, there's probably very little chance, even if I like these a lot, there's probably very little chance that I will ever buy another set, because they are pretty expensive. And again, like I said, it wasn't my money that paid for them, so this will be a once in a lifetime thing probably. They're probably very good motors, but man, it was just, you can get other motors for a lot less that I have to think are probably just as good. Not knocking LumierGear or anything, but I mean, they look nice. I like them. I'm sure they're going to look good, and the ones that Richard used performed very well, but they cost a hell of a lot of money, man. I don't, you know, this is seriously ghetto here. I don't normally spend any more than I have to. Normally I'm thinking maybe $1 or $2 I might get something a little better, because I found out with that PDB, $3 just wasn't worth the difference. Or actually would have been worth a lot more on the PDB, but the price difference in these, no, I just don't see it. There are others that are probably just as good, maybe even better, that are way less expensive, so we'll find out. Anyhow, that's pretty much it for this installment of the Seriously Ghetto workshop. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.